This whole salvage car lifestyle thing is actually really simple. You find yourself a crashed car, you buy it, you fix what's broken about it, and then you have a really cheap exotic car. That's 90% of the project in a nutshell. The other 10%, for some reason, is very hard. Although, is that really a surprise?
It sort of goes like any other task around the house.
Getting laundry in the machine, pretty simple. Not the hardest thing you've ever done. But that final step, folding the laundry. Ugh. The dishwasher, very simple to load. Hey, it's even easy to start getting the dishes back in the cabinet. Ugh. So it should come as no surprise. Fixing the broken parts that totaled our Bentley was very simple, but finishing it and registering it seems like it's taking an act of God. So we're doing today right. We're gonna fold our laundry, we're gonna put the dishes away, and we're finishing the Bentley. Like finished. Getting a salvage car inspected means it must be 100%. So when the inspector asks you why there's such a big gap between the headlight and the bumper, well, you just don't want to give them a reason to ask. The outside of the car actually isn't the problem. All of the problems are now on the inside. As soon as the inspection mechanic starts the car and hears the beep and sees that key light right there and sees that parking light alert, the car fails on the spot. Fixing that key light is hopefully as simple as replacing the battery in the fob.
Just one look at our old battered Bentley key and you can see somebody else has beat me to sticking a flathead screwdriver in the casing, further supported by the glue that they used to put it back together. So we'll get the old battery out, swap it with a new battery, and make sure this thing works before I replace the key with a brand new one.
But all that matters is if it actually fixed our problem. Let's start the car. Let's see. Is that a key light? And the parking light's still on. Great, 0 for 1. Actually, what happens if I put the key in the ignition? Hey, look at that, no key light. I'll take it. Parking brake light's still on. Really hard to zoom in on the parking brake. There's a switch inside the car for the electric parking brake. What do you think they call it? Electric parking brake switch? I have read that it can go bad, and I'm hoping that replacing it will make it go good. A true Bentley part. In order to get that part in, you have to take the center console out. Should be easy.
In order to pop out the center console, you will have to put the transmission into neutral, which gets the shifter out of the way so that you can lift the center console without hitting the shifter. Before shifting the car into neutral though, be sure to block your rear wheels with something that'll keep your Bentley from rolling into the street. You could just put on the parking brake, but remember, ours doesn't work. That's why we're here. There are no screws. You literally just pull from the back and then pull from the front, and the center console pops right up. From the side, you can access the 3 Torx bolts that allows us to remove the parking brake sensor and put it on our workbench next to the new one. Hopefully, they didn't just get switched. Reinstallation of the center console and of the switch is super simple, but figuring out what to do when it didn't fix your problem, not as simple. But if you're waiting for a suggestion, I'd recommend overnighting a parking brake module and 2 parking brake motors. Well, not exactly overnighted, it took 2 weeks. That's why I have a beard. It would be much more common for the motors to go bad, but it's much easier to replace the module. You could use a code reader. The problem is if the brake motors are bad, it could still read as a bad module. And our code reader says there's something wrong with the module. So I'm just gonna replace every piece that could possibly fail in the parking brake system. This includes the electric parking brake motors, one on the left and one on the right, and I'll also replace the parking brake module. There's no good way to jack up a Bentley with a floor jack. So if you can, use a lift or a quick jack. Some of these parts are several hundreds to upwards of $1,000 to replace. If you're looking for specific used but working Bentley parts, check out flyingspares.com. And if you are gonna lift your Bentley in the air, break loose the lug bolts before it's off the ground. My favorite part's pushing the button. Removing the parking brake motors only uses a few simple hand tools. So there's not a lot of fuss in removing the bolts. You get the old one out. Bad news is, it looks totally fine. We'll replace it anyway. Here's the freshie. For once, it's a really simple reassembly. With every part that I replace, I go back in the car to try and clear the code and see if we fixed our problem. And the light's still there. Now we can move on to the other wheel, knowing that we haven't fixed it yet. Out with the old, in with the new. You have to lower the car so the suspension knows that the car's on the ground before we test it. So now both motors have been replaced and the switch that controls them. It's got a good click to it. But will it fix our code? It's only one way to find out. Key not found. It's like a new problem over and over again with this car. Do it the old-fashioned way. Oh, that quick. Damn it. That only leaves one repair left to try. Let's try it. Inside your fancy self-lifting trunk of the Bentley, underneath your battery, is a parking brake module. This is an old parking brake module. We'll replace it with the new one. It's a little awkward to get to. It's a bit of a reach and it's very dark, but it's just a few bolts. Swapping the module takes 5 minutes and then you just put your battery back in. And for the 4th time today, let's test our Bentley. Parking brake switch replaced, parking brake motors replaced ×2, and the module's now replaced. Something's feeling fishy. Let's see if our light's gone. The suspense. This is typically the part where I put the cars away, clean up the tools, and just give up for the day. But there's a mystery in our Bentley's electrical issues that I just can't stop thinking about. And that's when it dawned on me. The parking brake switch has a light. Why isn't it lighting up when I plug it in? So I decided to dig into that center console one more time. So why wasn't power getting to our switch? If I check the power to the switch, you find something really bizarre. The mirrors fold in. What's the relationship between the mirrors and a parking brake? There is none. So if that plug is connected to our parking brake switch, what's plugged into the mirror switch? I'm unplugging the harness from the mirrors and plugging it into the parking brake. And unplugging the harness from the parking brake and plugging it into the mirrors. So acknowledge, if I start this car right now and there's no fault light, then that means all the work I did in the last 3 weeks and the $1,200 in parts was not the problem at all. It was that somebody before me plugged the mirror switch into the parking brake. I don't know if I want this to work or not. So if I start this car and there's no beep and no error light, then yes, I just wasted a whole bunch of time, but the Bentley's fixed.